Steven. I am a graphic designer, and I'm going to help you learn how to make logos.
All right, you got the floor. So I shared image with you. It's the image that I've also showed students in class of my skateboard truck company, Groove. So with that image, what would you be able to do using this application?
So I've placed the image in here. I can move it around. No, so what I can show you is I downloaded the image and I just click and dragged it over to the app.
So you just dragged it from your computer onto the app?
Yes.
Okay.
You can also do it by hitting place image, and it'll take you to, your files, and then you go and select your file, and you can just kind of click. You can click this button right here, and it'll do that same thing.
Oh, perfect.
And at this point, I just kind of want to get rid of the outside because it's a little busy and kind of distracting. Double click it again, and so now I just have this. That's exactly what we want. We can resize it, and when you're resizing an image, you want to make sure you're either holding Shift to resize it equally, or you can hold Option/Alt, and you can resize it from the middle. So it resizes all the sides equally. So once we've got our image cropped and sized to how we want it, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to lock the layer, so now I can't move that image anymore.
Okay.
I want it to stay in the same spot.
And you did that by clicking the lock key.
Yeah, this little lock right here. So what we can do now is we're going to create a new layer, which is this little icon right here next to the trash can. And we're going to start first with our pen tool. So the pen tool is what you use to trace almost anything that you draw. So what I'll do, and it's this little button right here. I see in the top right corner that the shortcut for it is P. So I'm going to hit P, and I've got the little tool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of just start with these wheels because they're going to be super easy, simple shapes. And I'm going to, and on this once I click, I can hold Shift and it'll make it an exact straight line. And so I'll go down and I'll click and hold and I'll drag and it'll make a curve. And if I hold Shift, I can make sure that curve, you see how the handles are on 45-degree planes?
Oh, I see.
So if I hold Shift, I can just kind of make that curve. And right now, once I'm done making that curve, I can click this anchor point, and then it'll take the curve away from
the next line.
Yeah. And then you see these little teal guides that are connecting. What that is that tells me that I'm in line with the anchor point above it, which is what I want. And then click again, hold Shift again, click, and then to complete the shape, I click on the first anchor point that I made, and now I have my shape. And so if I don't want that filled in, I can go to here, and let's see. So this is where I can choose the color of the inside. But for right now, I don't want that. So with this, it's just a color picker. I can choose, anything. You have to make sure that this is selected, which, there we go. Make sure that's selected. There's swatches that you can use down here that are pre-made colors, or you can go in this color picker and choose your own.
So a 0 opacity.
Oh, okay, there we go. So I can remove the fill. So now that's what I did. I hit the little trash can and I removed the fill. So I want to.
Can you get it back if you threw it away?
You can just make a new one. So yeah. So if you hit this little add button.
Got it.
But right now I don't want anything in there, so I can kind of see what I'm doing.
Okay.
So right now it's a little rough. You see these pointed sections right here. So what I can do is I can hit D for that direct select tool, and I want to kind of make these to where that little section is no longer like pointed, if that makes any sense.
So you're making micro adjustments.
Right. And then V, you see how the arrow's black? V is the select tool. So I can hit V and I can move this shape, the whole shape, wherever. If I hit D, which is the direct select tool, it allows me to select specific things rather than
the whole shape.
Rather than the whole shape.
Got it.
So now I can take this little shape that I made for the wheel. I can drag it over and hold. If I hold Shift, you see how it moves on a straight plane. And then as I'm holding the image with my while it's clicked and while I'm holding Shift, if I hit Option or Alt and then let go of the click, it will duplicate it wherever I take it.
And because you were holding Shift while you did that, it kept it on an even plane.
So now I'm going to make this part of the truck right here, the one with the curves. So I'm going to click on where I want the anchor to start, and then I'll hold Shift to make a straight line. And then I'll come down here and I'll make a little curve. And I'll click this guy and I'll hold Shift again to make a flat line, and then go up and then make another curve. To curve, you click, and then at the end you hold. As long as you hold your click. Yeah, as long as you hold your click, you can make the curve however you want.
Perfect.
I need to make it more symmetrical. And I'm kind of eyeballing it. And we're going to move this back in a little bit because it's a little bit too far from the other one. I'm going to not fill it for now because it's not going to be a white fill, which is fine. So I'm going to take my direct select tool, the D, and I'm going to move it over just a little bit. So what we can do now, so I have these little shapes right here. So I can do a rectangle, and you see the little crosshairs that it has now. So what I'm going to do now is I see that little guide shows me that I'm in line with the bottom of that. So I'm going to click and drag from the corner of that. I don't want this fill, so but I do want a border. So I'm going to add a border.
Got it.
And then what I can do now is I can select these two things, and we're going to align them.
I see.
Centered. Okay, so now, I do want to make sure that I align them center. Okay, there we go.
So that time you highlighted all three of them.
Right.
And you clicked align center, so it centered up all three.
So now I've kind of got these shapes sort of how I want them. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to select these three, and you can click and drag outside of them, and then just kind of drag this blue box over any part of them. So as long as you hit part of that shape, it'll select it. So what we want to do now is we want to group these. So if I hit Command G, it'll makes Command or Control G, I guess. It makes a little group over here. So now, if I select one of those, it selects all of them. Not permanently. You can ungroup them by hitting Command or Control Shift G. And anytime I say Command, if you're not on a Mac, it's Control. I'm going to make a rectangle over where the words are. And I'm gonna delete the fill and add a border. But right now, I've just put that on the outside, so we have kind of a guideline of what we want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lock that rectangle so I can't move it. I can't select it, I can't move it, so it's not in my way, it's just a guide. We're going to start with the G. We're just going to kind of make it, fairly simple. And I'm just holding, to make the straight lines, I'm holding Shift. I want to make sure that they're aligned with each other. And there we go. So now we have, we have our G, yeah. And I'm going to make these fairly quick.
Yeah, perfect.
So I've created this O.
We have an O next to it.
I have another O. So I'm going to use the same thing I did for these wheels. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hold Shift and click. And I'm also going to hold Alt or Option and then unclick it before I let go of the 2 buttons that I was holding. So we've got all but one letter. This we're going to fix later. And I can make this little curve. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through and kind of want to simplify, or not simplify, but kind of clean this up. This little rectangle that I locked, I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to delete it. So I've kind of got everything, arranged kind of how we want it. This is the gold that the Grizzlies, which you said you wanted to use, kind of have those colors inspired by. We don't have to use those, but this is the gold that is in their branding. What I would say, since trucks are usually like a silver, and I still want to kind of stick with the Grizzlies type colors, since they have a gray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that dark gray. It's 112, 114, and 113.
Yeah, I like that.
So I'll go and I'll hit add on the fill, and then I'll go to my
and you
color.
had to highlight all of them, right?
Yeah, I highlighted all of them. 112, 114, and 113. So
that should be easy.
112,
114, 113.
Okay, so now
I have gray.
I now can look at it and say, okay, I don't really want an outline, and I'm going to go ahead and just take the borders off, and I want to zoom in and make sure that there's no separation between here. With the wheels, I kind of like it to have that border. Now that I've created that gray color, I click this little, little eyedropper. Oh, there we go. So that little button right there, I can then now hover over any of the colors, and it gives me that RGB color code. So right now, I'm gonna change it to gray, and so, but for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a fill to the letters. It'll also fill in that because that shape is not filled in. So, okay, so here's what we want. So I've got this shape, and it should be on top of this other shape, right? So what I can do is I can go in here and where it says create compound shape, what I want to do is hit that drop down menu and hit subtract.
Okay.
So what subtract will do is we'll take whatever shape's on the bottom and subtract whatever shape's on top. So now that I've got these filled, I'm going to go ahead and take the border off for now. So I kind of like this teal color. So I'm going to kind of just go in, and since it's a drawing and it's an image, you can see that it has different shades of that color. So I'm going to go and try to find, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of find part of it that I think will look the best, maybe a little darker. So let's see if we can find a darker area of that. Okay, there we go. That's better. You want to kind of accentuate something, so like something that will bring someone's eye and kind of let them know like a subtle meaning of groove, the word groove. So what I kind of want to do is I want to play around and see what just the V would look like in this like red color. Yeah, and so it's kind of accentuating like now what that is. I don't really need any of this background for now. So what I'll do is I'll go over here to this where the image is, and I'm just gonna hit this little eyeball, and that'll take it away. It's just hidden. I kind of like how I want to mimic this kind of this curve. Okay, there we go. that's kind of more like what we're going for. So now I've got all my letters pretty much how I want them at this point, and making those corners curved made it, especially with this R, made it look a lot better, I think. So right now we've got like a fairly close to being finished logo. Okay, cool. This is what I wanted earlier. Okay,
rounding the edges.
Yeah, so I can do that by taking this little red, use my direct select tool, which is the D tool, and then I click on it, and you see these little red dots on the inside. You can take and drag those, and it'll round all the corners.
Gotcha.
But I do want to see what it would look like if I extended these a little bit. I kind of like now how it really almost disappears over here.
Yeah, like it gets like much more sharp at the top.
I'm gonna move this up a little bit to where that's a little bit shorter. But as far as it goes right now,
yeah, it looks pretty nice.
With that like secondary logo that you were doing that you had earlier, in order to make that super fast, you could take just this G and copy by Command C or Control C, and then deselecting everything and then hitting Command V. So now we have that G by itself. You know, if we wanted to, we could add the little curve by it's the direct select tool. You can add anchor points that way.
Okay, so you click D.
Yeah.
And then you click the anchor points.
Then I click just the line. So I'm adding anchor points to that line.
Got it.
So I'm going to add 3. And then I'm going to pull this one down a little bit.
Yep. And then make those bad boys curved.
So that would be like a quick secondary logo that you could use on letterheads or business cards or anything like that.
Super cool.
And that could be, any of the colors. So like if you wanted it to be red, it could be red. But it's something you want to just decide. And like where you want to use it, what colors you want to use. But that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And then, so the last step would be, if you wanted to save this, you would simply, as you mentioned before, the auto save, but you could go to File.
Yeah, and then save to local files. Or if you have a Classroom Cloud, you can save it to that.
Duggan, you're the man.
Yes, sir.